Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 374. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And yes, I don't know how long it's been since Connor's been here, although...
Who?
Good question, Matt. Good question. Excellent callback. But all goes to plan, he should be here with us next week. So if you're missing the ginger for some reason, he will be making his...
Is that triumphant?
Well, I was trying to think what the opposite of triumphant is.
Yeah. Remember when I called him the CM Punk of this show? Hey, Connor didn't even get fired. He's just not here.
Hey, doesn't mean he won't.
Yeah, true. Yet.
It's a big yeah. But yes, welcome everyone. It's the DC Comics podcast. We get together and we talk about the DC Comics we read this week. And it was a pretty busy week for comics.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up on today's show, we have Wonder Woman issue 1. We have Superman issue 6. Nightwing 106. We have Green Lantern War Journal issue 1. Batman Superman World's Finest 18. Titans issue 3. Matt read Hawkgirl issue 3. We got the Vigil issue 4. And catching up from last week, because it came out on Batman Day, at least digitally anyway, so it was hard to get to in time. We'll also be looking at Batman Gargoyle of Gotham issue 1. So that is what's coming up on the show this week. Now, for those of you eagle-eyed who might be wondering, wait a minute, were you not going to read Catwoman to keep up to date with the Gotham War? So I probably would have read it for this week, but I forgot. I kind of just skipped it because I'm used to skipping Catwoman. And then I realized like an hour ago, oh wait, it's the next part of the Gotham War thing. I probably should have tried to squeeze that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it, probably not even till next week. I'll probably leave it to the week after, because that's the week that Batman comes out. And I have like 3 books that week. So whereas next week's still quite, not super busy, but it's comparable to this week. So
are you planning on reading the Red Hood tie-in or no? That's next week.
I am not.
Okay.
To be blunt about it.
Just making sure. Because if they're coming out like chapters, I didn't want you to feel like you're missing out on the Gotham War.
I'm assuming that isn't a chapter and it's just a tie-in. That said, though, if it gets to the end of the Catwoman book and it says to be continued in the Red Hood one-shot, I will make a decision that week. But I have no interest in catching up for it next week. I'll tell you that right now.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so if I have to do some catching up for the next Batman issue, that's fine, because it's on a week where I have 3 books. So that's okay. Patreon book that week as well, I imagine. If not both. So... Yes, so yeah, we have a healthy list of books. We got a couple of issue 1s, lots to talk about, lots to get into. Not really any news to speak of. It's all quiet on the news front. But not to worry, Matt, because there's one thing that will always be here. Even long after we're both dead, somehow it'll still exist.
Hopefully.
And that is, of course, the ComiXology Top 10. So we're going to look at what the current ranking is on ComiXology as for Tuesday and for Wednesday, because they separate them by days. So Tuesday's DC Day, of course, so that's the one that's more interesting to us. But we'll have a look. So what do you think number 1 was as of right now on ComiXology?
I'm going to guess that number 1 is a new number 1, and that's going to be Wonder Woman.
You'd be correct. That's number 1. It's that easy. That's simple. Number 2 is Titans. Number 3 is Nightwing, so Tom Taylor selling well there. 4 is Superman. 5 is World's Finest. 6 is Catwoman, which is a big boost from normal, because if you look back at what we've said about Catwoman in these charts for the last several months, it's been shockingly low on these charts, and we always theorize that the variants help the physical version, but the digital version doesn't seem to do that well. So that's a big boost because of the crossover. Number 7 is Green Lantern War Journal issue 1. Number 8 is Batman White Knight Presents, whatever the thing, Generation Joker is the one that's on. Number 9 is Hawkgirl, and number 10 is Cyborg. So there you go. I'm a little sad that the Vigil is number 12, because it's one under a trade, under a collection, so it didn't even stay with all the other singles, which is a bit of a shame, because it's a good book. But
yeah, I'm wondering if people are just waiting now for it to come out and trade. because we're nearing the end, right? It's 6 issues.
Yeah, I think that's optimistic, though. I'm more inclined to think that most people just don't know it exists because it's not called Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, or The Flash.
Maybe.
That's my cynical take, is that because it's got a name that they don't recognize, it just kind of gets ignored, and there it is. Not by everyone, of course, but by the masses, clearly. So, there you go. That's the thing. Because we've seen, Tom Taylor's name rise and cred, same with Tom King. I would like Ram V to get to that stage that his name alone would get something selling, and hopefully we'll get there, but I don't think it's quite there just yet. But Hell Day Top 10, all things considered, though. More books out this week for a start, which usually helps. Wednesday's books, let's see if you can give me a guess for number one.
I have it narrowed down to either an independent or a Marvel book. So
those are the only options.
Well, what I mean is by I should have said Image, not independent.
Okay.
An Image book. I'm going with X-Men Annual 1.
That is incorrect. No.
Okay, so then is it Saga 66?
Nope.
What? Leah Comic Geeks, what are we doing?
What's so funny is that you just gave me the number 10 and number 9 spots, respectively.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, how about Dark X-Men?
Nope.
Jeez. Oh, wow. I don't even know where to begin now, because now I'm scrolling a lot. Is it Wolverine?
Nope.
Uncanny Spider-Man.
Nope.
Shoot. It's a Spider-Man with a tail, so I figured, man, all right, I give up. What is it?
Uncanny Avengers issue 2.
Where's that? Oh, man, it's in the third row. So on Leo Comic Geeks, it's coming in at 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
So worse, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was something they did like a decade ago when they were doing we're mixing up Avengers and X-Men, so they're doing it again apparently.
Yeah, and that Remender run was really good. They did stuff with Apocalypse and, so who's writing this one?
Jerry Duggan, by the looks of it.
It's Duggan, yeah.
So number 2 is Uncanny Spider-Man.
Okay.
Number 3 is Dark X-Men. Number 4 is Captain America issue 1. This is JMS doing Captain America. I even realized this was a thing.
Oh boy, is he gonna start walking? We're never gonna hit the end of it.
I love how, I guess it's relevant because you're referencing when he wrote some Superman. But most people probably know him from comic books, from his Spider-Man run, and from the rest of entertainment from the fact that he created and wrote most of Babylon 5. But yeah. But Matt's still got that 2-trade run of Superman.
Yeah, and only out of those two, let's say there's 10 issues in the trades. I think only 7 of them are him. It was there was a lot of potential. He also wrote one of my favorite Thor runs when he brought Thor back from Ragnarok. So moved it to Oklahoma and all that fun stuff. Moved Asgard, that is. So yeah, him. I did not realize. So I didn't make it into the shop this week, so all my books were digital because I had some car troubles. So usually I can kind of look at what my shop has ordered as well. Did not even realize that there's a new Captain America book out.
Yeah, well, number 5. I don't know if you realized this was out, but Predator versus Wolverine.
It's right next to Captain America on League of Comic Geeks.
Yep, issue 1. $8 issue 1 as well.
Is this Percy?
It is Percy.
Hey, let's go. I might have to pick that up. $8 is a little much. Maybe I'll wait for a sale.
Yeah. It's interesting though. I'm noticing though they've got this 20th Century Studios banner for these things that are Alien, Predator, so on.
Yep.
Number 6 is Amazing Spider-Man. Really, Predator versus Wolverine's outselling Amazing Spider-Man digitally. That's kind of surprising. We got Alpha Flight at number 7. Number 8 is the regular Wolverine book. So Predator versus Wolverine actually is bumped over the regular one. 9 is Saga, and 10 is X-Men Annual issue 1. So there you go.
Yep. Who is on Alpha Flight? That's what I need to know.
Ed Brisson.
Ed Brisson. All right.
Yeah, not one of the more exciting names you see on books, but It is what it is. So hey, what was that new Turtles issue this week? Issue 143. I'm impressed they've kept that going since 2011.
Yeah, right.
Numbering keeps going. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Alternatively, Spawn issue 345 is out this week.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I respect that that's kept its numbering for, decades. That's nice. So anyway, there you go. That's the ComiXology top 10. So go. We'll just get straight into books, I think, because we got a lot of books to go through. And a time we have to be done by today. So
and there's some pretty meaty ones. So
there is indeed some pretty meaty ones. We're going to start off, of course, with Wonder Woman issue 1 or legacy numbering 801. I appreciate that on the cover.
Yeah.
They should be doing that for all the books that could be using it. But this is Tom King writing with Daniel Sempere on the art. So obviously this was announced a while ago. There's been a bit of buzz building up to it, and it was kind of exciting because Tom King's been doing all these miniseries, and he's basically become one of our most excited and spoken about writers on the show over the last few years. But he's not really been doing any ongoings, and hasn't really since Batman. It's just not been his thing. He's been doing other stuff. So this was interesting to see, okay, what's he going to do with a completely different character, new ongoing book, all that stuff. And I thought this first issue was basically phenomenal. I don't know how you feel, Matt. Take it away.
To balance again, what deal did Tom King make to keep working with all these fantastic artists?
I don't know. He's got Trigon in his back pocket or something.
He must, because Sempere, fan of his from working with Tom Taylor, is on Suicide Squad, right?
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sempere's work on this book, there's a lot of quiet moments balanced with a lot of frenetic action moments, and it's balanced so well. King is, I don't know how King writes, but I don't know if he writes with the artist in mind and kind of leans into their strengths, or these artists just play into Tom King's strengths. But this was so well balanced, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's I can't really think of a Tom King book that has a zany layout style. He always tends to have pretty straightforward kind of good, solid, just 9-panel grids and simple layouts. But I think I wonder if in some ways it kind of helps the artist focus less on being flashy and more just the raw fundamentals of the storytelling, and it almost elevates it in a way.
And then when it's Garrett's and King, they know each other so well at this point that Garrett's can add a bit of flash to it, and then that makes it stand out from the typical 9-panel and 6-panel type stuff.
Yeah, and not to say this is 9-panel, but the first page is it's effectively a 9-panel grid, but the bottom 3 are 1 panel, so it's a 7-panel grid, I guess. If you want to put it that way.
Yeah, and just a lot of the art, the art when the action gets going, right? It opens up and it's got this Amazon in this little dusty town, and when the action kicks in, right, we get the big splash page. And everything just pops around it. So, yeah, I definitely say the art's a highlight here. Yeah,
I think the art's great, but it's not even the first thing that I took away from this book, because there's so many books that try to put in political commentary into their comics, right? There's so many comics that will try and talk about ongoing things and subjects that the writer feels important to talk about. And so much of it can come off as feeling a little bit heavy-handed or a little bit forced. And I think what's so impressive about this issue is that it pulls in 2 huge political topics and does it in a way that it feels like, no, this is just what the story's about. So nothing feels... It's not like we're doing another story and it's forcing some metaphor into it. It directly turns the Amazons living in the US into immigrants that the country wants rid of. As well as, of course, dealing with all the sexism that's buried on top of that. So, so the plot of this book, for anyone who's maybe to kind of explain this, is that the opening is we're in a dive bar and this Amazonian woman, who we don't really know. Maybe as a character from the past or whatever, but I don't think. I don't know who she is. But it's this blonde Amazon who gets groped by some idiots in this bar, and she protects herself and fights back, and then all the guys in the bar start attacking her, and we find out quickly after, there's a great page where it's like just looking at the windows outside the bar, but you see blood getting smeared across the glass, so it's like
splatter.
Yeah, she's not just beating them up, like she is mauling them, and we get the kind of the almost traditional page of comic books where it's all the news reports, like all the newscasters talking about what this event was, and like 17 men have been found dead. The only 2 women who were in the bar were not killed. So, and what's so smart about this 9-panel grid of all these newscasters is that it goes through like a period of time where the story's evolving between each panel. It's not all just like, because I feel like typically when a comic book does this, it'll be the same news show and it'll be 2 newscasters talking to each other, and it'll go backwards and forwards, maybe debating. Here, it's like, no, we're jumping ahead in time with each one. So by the time you get to the bottom of the page, you've actually gotten quite a lot of development in the story, because it goes from being, okay, 17, or was it 19, whatever it was, men were killed, and then a couple panels later, it's like, oh, and the authorities are saying they're looking for her. This is a woman who did this. And then it becomes clear she's an Amazon, and then it becomes clear this. And this issue then becomes about how the country turns on the Amazons and wants to deport them and hunt after them, because they basically see this as a terrorist attack that they have to respond to. And it basically raises, and we see like people on the news turning the opinion against Amazons. And bizarrely, the smartest thing this book does is that it leaves Wonder Woman out of it for like 2/3 of the issue. Like she's unseen. There's a narrator who does mention her, not by name, but sort of like you can tell that he's talking, whoever this is clearly talking about Wonder Woman, like when she's going to get involved, when she's doing stuff. But we're introduced to the guy, was it Sergeant Steele? Sarge
Steele. So I did a deep dive on him, and he's an actual old Charlton Comics
I
character.
believe it, because there's one line in here about him feeling wronged during Amazon's attack storyline, and I'm like, okay, this is an old character that King's going to dive deep into.
I was getting like, this feels like King Faraday, because it made it sound like he was a counterpart to Waller, right? Like him and Waller have a lot of overlap, but Waller seems like she's better at getting the right people on her side than he is. So doing a deep dive into it, King Faraday debuted in the same issue Sarge Steele did, right, for DC, because they redid him. So, but he's always been a thorn in the side for the government, right? He's never like an out-and-out villain, but he's definitely representative of that bureaucratic, the government doesn't trust superheroes, all the way back to the Charlton comic days, which you can kind of see in like Watchmen, right? Because those were all based off of those characters. So King using him is a very smart, as kind of this foil for Wonder Woman, because it feels like there's something personal here for Sarge Steele to round up all these Amazons.
Yeah, well, I think it works really well though, because he is introduced here as if he is a new character, in the sense that I don't think you need to know who he is. The book does a good job. It gives him this big introduction where he assassinates these two guys. It's just his job. We see that he's got these like robotic hands that fire bullets, basically, which sounds silly when you say it out loud, but it feels sinister in the scene.
It's very 60s spy type stuff, because it's a gun hand, for lack of a better term, and he's just very point blank about it, where he's like, I was supposed to be doing something else, but time's of the essence, and just finishes the job, which again tells how good he is at his job.
Yeah, and it sets up that he has connections, that he basically just hands the guy who works at this restaurant where he's committed these murders a card, and it's like, hey, give this to the authorities when they arrive, and they'll just clean everything up, and everything will be fine. It gives you this sense of power. And there's a page after this which shows you, and you get the sense that this is Diana talking to Steve, but you never see them. They're just kind of in silhouette, and they're walking next to the Washington Monument. It's a really pretty page. But this idea that the opinions are turned. So the next page after that is this politician talking about how, my daughter loves Wonder Woman, but let's be real, these Amazons, they aren't American. They come from an island where there's no men, and they call that paradise. That's not equality. And he's just like churning all this stuff. And
I believe I've heard like people when they bring up Wonder Woman, say these same things, right? So this is something that is in the public consciousness, for better or for worse. So for King to have like this politician character parodying that type of stuff too, it adds another layer. You know, it kind of breaks the like it brings the real world into comics, right?
Well, I mean, that's what I started this whole thing by saying, is that it brings these real world like issues and makes them a fundamental part of the story, where it's that itself is the story. It's turning Wonder Woman as someone that, if not the American public, at least the government body of the American country is going to rally against. And you've got these people spouting on news programs about how she's a threat, or about how at least Amazons are a threat. And then we see this whole scene where Sarge Steele goes to an Amazon's house and says, "You're being deported." Like,
you and your whole family, right?
Yeah.
Including her wife and their child, who are both American.
Well,
right?
actually, well, no. But both wives are Amazons, and they said they're not deporting the child. The child's going to a detention center because the parents, the kid's not going with them.
All right, so I read that as the lady, the wife, wasn't an Amazon. They had met, but I might have misread that.
No, I think they both are. Yeah, I think they just say that the daughter was born here, so she's an American citizen, but both mums aren't. And the basically the one who's talking to them out the front, the other one gets suited up in Wonder Woman like gear in the back and comes out trying to fight them. But they're prepared. They kill her in front of the house, and it's this really dark scene. And the kid comes running out and is crying her eyes out. It's a whole.
Yeah, it's super brutal too, because it's just a hail of gunfire. And this is where we realize that is this where he talks about that they've made like the bullets are different, or is that when he's talking to Wonder Woman?
No,
later?
it says that here. Yeah, they've made bullets that go through Amazon steel or whatever it is. So, and then you get this like senator who's on the news, and the newscasters actually challenge him and saying, "Hey, you're taking people away, you're tearing up families, you're doing all," and you can you can imagine hearing this about regular immigrants in the real world, the way he's talking. And the senator, whoever it is just like, "Oh no, but they have to obey the laws, and these are the laws. We have to draw a line. No one wants to force a family out, but this is the truth of it." And so, and we get like some panels here showing that there's other examples where they've had to kill some Amazons. Like, this is not just a one-time incident. This is pretty monstrous, whatever it is they're doing.
And all of these soldiers are faceless on top of it too, right? They were in the black bloc, the goggles, the helmets, and they're all, they're just soldiers.
They're all in SWAT gear,
Yeah, compared to the Amazons who there is a difference between them, right? So
this whole time you're thinking, okay, but what's Wonder Woman's reaction to all this? Like, we're sort of operating this with barely mentioning her, and we go to Themyscira, and Nubia is sort of being informed of everyone's coming back to the island, blah blah blah, and this other Amazon says, "Hey, Diana gave me her sword," and she says the reason why she gave me this is because, and what she must now do, she has to avoid temptation. And it's basically this idea, it sort of like builds up the hype of, okay, Diana's going to respond to everything that's going on, and she's trying to make sure, this is basically saying, this is pissing me off, and I don't want to be tempted to stab someone.
Yeah. If I have a sword, I'm going to use the sword. So here's my sword.
So it's all been building up to this great scene where we're at the cemetery where the victims of the opening scene, because that's the thing in all this. Like, I think you have to remember here, and this was in my mind as I was reading this, is that there's an Amazon woman who did murder 17 people and is out there at large, and that she probably should be taken in because she can't go around just killing people willy-nilly.
True, but it's all about the escalation of the response, right?
I know, but I'm saying she's still, they're not even paying attention to her, though. They're not looking for her. They're just prosecuting everyone who's Amazon instead of looking for the actual murderer.
Right, that's what I'm talking about, the escalation, right? Is that they're just using this as an excuse to round them up. It's almost as if she doesn't matter. that the inciting incident doesn't actually matter. That just gave them the permission.
Which is what I like about this scene, because when they move up towards Wonder Woman, and you don't see her, right? They sort of still just sort of focus on the soldiers. You see her blurry in the sniper sights, and when the sniper takes the shot, you get the full page spread of her, ricocheting the bullet with her bracelet. Gorgeous full page. Wonderful. It's you've waited 2/3 of the issue to get to actually see Wonder Woman, and it's a big moment. They really sell it. And
so she has the doves around her too, to go with all the snow, right? And it's a real striking image because she's standing out with all the color on this white background with the snow on the headstones and whatnot. It looks really cool.
Yeah, it's all just shades of white, basically. And she's obviously popping with the blue and the red and all that. This scene, though, like, Wonder Woman herself is who brings this up. Like, since the newscast, basically, on, like, page 4, whatever that was, like, the actual murderer has barely been mentioned, right? It's all been just what they're using it in politics to, like, drive people out and away from the country. And Diana's like, I'm here because I have to find who killed these people. Like, I'm going to find her. Like, this actually is important to stop whoever this is. So we get this big action scene here. Diana is using her lasso against the SWAT team. She throws her tiara at one point. It's it's really fun, and obviously because the book has largely been more slow build up, this is the first time you really get like a full on action sequence. And the narration, because this is the other thing about the issue, is that you don't know who's narrating it the whole time. It's not until the very end of the, and I was trying to think, I was like,
me too,
who is this, who is talking here? And she eventually, and that towards the end of the fight, when you get that panel of her punching the SWAT team guy in the face, and you see like the glass shattering from his goggles, it's beautiful stuff. But she has her lasso, of course, right? And she wants the truth, so she grabs like one of the SWAT team guys in her lasso, and basically asks some questions. Because immediately Sarge Steele is like, hey, no, we were just defending ourselves. You attacked us. So she lassos the SWAT team guy and goes, hey, was I attacking you when you started shooting at me? And he's like, nope, I just followed orders to line up the shot and pull the trigger.
Yeah, so she grabs the sniper dude from the tree, right? And that's the one that she's interrogating. And I also love how she drags him over with the lasso. So her and Steele are in the same spot, but as you go down the page, he gets closer. So that added for a fun little late moment as well.
Yeah. As you're going down the page, like, he's been dragged across the snow. And I think what's so effective about all this, and what makes it feel so cathartic, that she does just tear them apart. And, at the very end, she literally crushes his robot hand, Steele's robot hand. Is that throughout the issue, it feels like there is nothing stopping, the forces in the government, Sarge Steele and the politicians that support him or employed him even, like, they are getting away with this. They are turning public opinion. They are sowing these seeds of doubt. They are murdering Amazons in their homes. They're deporting the ones that they don't fight. And it feels like they're getting away with this. And then you get to this point where he tries to encounter Wonder Woman, and it's very cathartic that she turns around and beats the piss out of them. And it's like, this is where it stops. This is where the line stops, where we have some hope, because she is going to try and solve this. Then the odds seem insurmountable because, like, all these ideas are already being spread, but it's like, no, she is not going back to Paradise Island. She is going to stay here, and she is going to fight this head on, for better or for worse. Probably better, but I imagine...
Yeah, you would hope.
I imagine it'll get worse before it gets better, just because storytelling tends to go that way. But it's very good. So, all very good. So, and then so they officially make Wonder Woman like a fugitive. Like, there's a warrant out for her arrest, and we see people reacting to this where they're like, "No way! Like, Wonder Woman's a hero. This is all a bunch of nonsense." And we see like a mirror of the earlier page where it's Steve and Diana next to the Washington Monument, but now it's on the other side of the water, and they're having another conversation. And Diana's like, "Yeah, Steele didn't really know a whole lot other than that there's someone that hired him that he doesn't know. It's someone mysterious that keeps his identity a secret, blah, blah, blah. I think the more interesting thing for me in this scene, though, is this idea that she even sort of prods Steve, like, he's one of your colleagues because he's in the military, and he's like, look, I could get court-martialed for even talking to you. You're a wanted fugitive right now.
Well, it's like one of those things, too. He says, yeah, so when you said your man, you meant, yeah, right, subtle. And so he goes, not every soldier is every soldier. Any idea how many court-martials I can get just for this walk, right? So that's even throwing the line in there that, like, yes, whilst, Trevor's still a soldier, right, he's putting a lot on the line to come and, walk with her, if you will.
Yeah, it's the end of this page where she says, have you ever heard of the Sovereign? And then that leads us into her ending, which is the reveal of who the villain of this right now is. So we still have, so this is the thing, we still have this Amazon who killed 17 men at the start of the issue, who's still out there, clearly has some anger issues that need to be addressed. But we're introduced to the Sovereign, who's the one who's, like, playing the chess pieces and, like, turning the public opinion against everyone. And we see he's got a butler, he's got a crown, which goes with the name of Sovereign, and it turns out that he has the lasso of lies, and he's this old dude who's been around for quite some time.
It's super nationalistic, and I do not like it, and I feel that that's the intent, right?
Oh yeah, no, I love it because it is fundamentally Tom King here has got a villain who the entire point is manipulating the opinion of a country and playing the politics game, which, given that Wonder Woman's always been tied to Washington, does actually make sense to do a story like this. And plus, on top of that, the lasso of lies versus the lasso of truth. It's this idea of manipulation versus what she believes in. So, like, as far as mission statements go, this was an incredible first issue because it was like, okay, it's establishing a tone, it's establishing the key politics and themes that we're going to be playing with. It tells it in a really engrossing way where you're building up to the reveal of Wonder Woman and how she's going to react to this, because it's all pertinent to her, but we're kind of like intentionally avoiding her for a lot of the issue. I thought that was very effective because it felt like a big deal when we see her, and then when she kicks the shit out of all those assholes, it's like, yeah great. Kick this shit out of ice. I mean, the anti-Amazon squad.
They're called Axe too, so it's the same kind of three letter.
Yeah, that's true. They're called Axe. I forgot that. You're right.
Yeah. So the thing with the Sovereign too is at the top of the page it says it's it's not our name but our title, and it's been handed down, right? And it goes back into American history, and that even before what we have recorded as American history, that's where the lasso of lies was found. So it's even going into this more, stuff that's in the headlines now about, what is actual history and, what's being taught and what are those lies.
Yeah, I was a little unclear. See, in that whole, like, it being passed down thing, I was a little unclear if it was literally just like a family line of father to son to son to son, or if it was more like there's a whole group of people who are the Sovereign, and it's passed down just from group to group. I mean, the fact that there's a final page with one character wearing this crown would imply it is just one person at a time. But the way it read to me felt like, oh, maybe there's a bit of wiggle room here where there might actually be like a group. Because I think it's the way he said we are the Sovereign. It made me think.
Well,
he
says that, and he says "are" a lot too. So he's, even if he's just the Sovereign, the fact that he is talking about it like there are more than one. Right, like this is a big, almost a group effort. Or if that's what he's talking about, like, the whole lasso of lies and what it's capable of, right? If it's about, persuasion and turning people's mind, now they're on the side of the Sovereign, and just what that means too, and with a lot of the modern day politics that Tom King's wading into here, just this whole idea of a sovereign, quote unquote, king of America. You know what I mean? Like, this is a very pointed attack at certain types of people, and I'm here for it, right? And especially with Tom King's, he was a CIA guy, right? Who knows what he did, and who knows what he saw, right? Like, so, I don't know what type of CIA work he did, and usually that's not in the country, right? CIA is usually international, but shoot.
Yeah, it's usually
sure.
See, because the way I always remember is the FBI is about investigating stuff internally, and the CIA is more about investigating threats coming from outside.
Right. And so, the whole idea that the call is coming from inside the house here, coming from that perspective of they're trying to kick out people out of the country while the threat is actually internal.
Yeah, I feel like for anyone who works in an organization like that, like King did, I think if you have critical thinking, if you have your beliefs and opinions, and you maybe see how like narratives are being spread and like the orders you're getting and like what you're focused to target and things like that, like I wonder if a lot of the reason why these themes do come up in his book, and especially with this because he's directly talking about manipulation of the masses, of the public, to gear the direction of the country. I have to imagine that his views on this do stem somewhat from maybe some of the I always say missions, like he was an operative going on missions. I just
stuff
mean
that his work experience, like some of the stuff he was seeing that left an imprint on him. Because I felt the same about Rorschach and a lot of the political stuff there. About the when Rorschach kills or tries to kill the guy that's running for president, and a lot of the stuff that he was saying, that felt very informed from like a real place that King has encountered some of this stuff. And similar here, when we got to that page and it's this old dusty man sitting with a crown on his head, I was like, oh, okay, this is, and it's also something new. Not in the idea of like a brand new character or anything like that, but it doesn't feel like this is territory that Wonder Woman has tread on, like you were talking about. She's in Washington. It's usually we play with the mythologies and,
I think thematically it's kind of been done in the sense that, you've got the idea that Ares is whispering lies into ears and things, but I feel like this is veering more towards sure, yeah, we've got this old guy who's got the lasso of lies, but it's been used as a sort of extension of like more real world like lies and manipulation and propaganda and trying to make the people hate a group and say it's their fault that we have this problem, which that's something Hitler also did. Just FYI.
Dictators and fascists all across the globe do the same thing. They find the concept of the other, and everything is the other's fault. And the reason it's so effective is because people want to be part of a group and they want to go against someone else, right? That's why sports is the way it is and all this other stuff. But it really takes an evil person to turn someone against someone else and blame all your problems. So yeah, and just I think Wonder Woman in a way that we can have Superman and Batman encounter these themes, but they're the whole idea of Wonder Woman as this symbol of truth and virtue.
It feels perfect for her. It feels this is a story that he's written intentionally to play to the strengths and themes of the character,
right?
And I think I think this could end up, if the quality holds up. We've only had one issue. It's hard to say right now, like how important this run will be when it's all done. It could fizzle out. His Batman run did fizzle out, so there's possibilities of that. Yeah. But at least from this first issue, like there is a chance here that this could be a very important run for the character, as in terms of defining her relevance in the modern day world and kind of what she stands against. You're saying we're specifically saying this is the character that stands against this type of behavior, this type of manipulation, and I think that could be quite powerful. Because I think the other characters stand for something as well that you can easily translate into the world. Superman is very much he's also an immigrant, but he's very much this idea of compassion, of being good even when it's easy to be bad, and like the strength it takes to have that. Batman's about using your resources and getting over trauma and all these other things. They all have their things that the writers play on.
It's what Morrison always said about that superheroes are the modern pantheon of the gods, right? And each of them represents something different. And here, we've had Wonder Woman actually involved in pantheons, but she's always never really like in pop culture. She's a lot more malleable. Here, I feel like King is very much pointed. This is what my Wonder Woman represents. This is where her spot is in that new pantheon, and it feels kind of similar to that Rucka run where Rucka made her, back in the day, before the New 52 and Flashpoint and all that stuff. She was a diplomat, right? And she tried to handle things peacefully. She wasn't this warrior princess. And that was Rucka's point of view. So even one issue in, I feel like we already have a pretty good handle on King's handle on her. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. I really couldn't have asked for a better first issue, honestly. And I was excited, but like I think because like his last ongoing book did fizzle out, I wasn't letting myself get particularly hyped for it. But it kind of just like right from the get-go, that opening scene just grabs your attention, and it's like, okay, an Amazon murdered people. That's a great inciting incident. And the only thing really going against it is that part of my brain the whole time was like, oh, when's the daughter showing up? And she doesn't, because clearly that's something we're getting to later. That's not an issue one thing, and that's fine.
Well, because I almost expected like a backup of Trinity and stuff, and then when it didn't happen, like I wasn't disappointed, but I was like, okay, so he clearly has a plan, right?
Yeah, this feels like something with a long-term like idea in mind. So yeah, this was a longer issue, by the way. This was like 40 pages. Now I don't know if it's going to stay this length, but it'll have a backup next month instead.
Right.
Or just the regular size main story, because this was like, you know,
at least 40 pages, right?
Well, 30 pages of actual story. Okay. So. Yeah, I think all the page counts are inflated this week because they all have that 4 or 5 page preview for Godzilla Kong at the end. So yeah, they're all inflated by a few. But yeah, so there you go. That is Wonder Woman issue 1. Matt, what are you rating the book?
I'm at a 9.5.
Straight in there, eh?
Boom.
Yeah, honestly, I find it hard to disagree with that. I think it's an exceptional first issue, and the art is, as mentioned, phenomenal. The way it uses, you know, the fact that the entire first fight with Wonder Woman is in this snowy setting, like you say, makes all the colors pop. I think this old guy, the Sovereign, at the end looks just dastardly and villainous, the way he's sitting there with that skull, and you've got the golden eagle above him, so it's like, oh, he is the worst of America, just personified. Okay. Excellent. So I agree, 9.5. Let's do it. All right. Superman issue 6, Joshua Williamson writing with Gleb Melnikov on the art. So, you know, Williamson's Superman's been a little up and down, but you know, there's been some promising ideas. The cliffhanger from the last issue was very good, which was that Superman's super hearing was nullified for a bit. It was nothing permanent, but it was nullified, and Lex Luthor is shanked in prison during this time, and it left us on this moment where Lex was begging Superman for help, but he never came, which is a really interesting thing, because it's like, oh, maybe, you know, Lex is going to take that personally. You know, it's going to look bad going forward.
He becomes the Michael Jordan meme.
I took that. There's 2 Michael Jordan memes that I know. I took that personally, and F them kids. I don't know where the F them kids comes from, but it's funny every time I see it.
I don't know either, but it's become a life motto of mine, of TK. Anytime me and my wife see like a kid acting out of line somewhere, we're just like, man, FTK. Glad we don't have any of our own.
So yeah, the issue starts with Lex being taken to hospital, and one of the doctors like, should we bother? He's Lex Luthor. Should we just...
Look, we talk about how sometimes the Williamson books are kind of a mess thematically and tonally. I'm here for the doctors wondering if we should save Lex, right? I like the little bits of humor he's throwing in here, because, you know, of course in a Superman book we're going to want, you know, them to help Lex, so that's what Superman would want, but just the idea that it's there, I think is funny.
I mean, I like this page just because it was a nice, like, instant, like, sort of recap, like, oh yeah, I instantly remember how the last one ending now. Very good. You've got me back in the swing of things. So Superman's flying about. We see him deal with some van with criminals firing bullets, this whole thing. But it establishes that he's got stuff on his mind because he's not stopping for the friendly chat that he normally does. And we get this great page of everyone badgering Lois for decisions on things at the Daily Planet, and she's sticking her fingers in her ears and going la 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 la. And it's this interesting little idea that she's coming to realize that being editor isn't just doing the editing part, but she's also kind of babysitting and being the therapist for all of the employees too. Yep. And all of a sudden, she respects Perry White's position in life a lot more.
Yep. Well, and think about all the stuff that she put Perry through, and you know what I mean. So there's that extra layer. I like here too, where Clark comes to talk to her because she's trying to get some peace and quiet in her office, and Clark comes and calls her Metropolis. You know, to go with when she calls him Smallville. I thought that was a nice little fun touch.
I think it worked well.
Before.
It worked well in context because she's been overstressed by the bustle of everything, which is kind of which you know, she always called him Smallville because he comes from the simple town who just farms, and he's the small town boy. But yeah, so yeah, he goes to Supercorp because he needs to find out about this Project Chains, which is what he found out from one of the villains last time. And Lex Luthor knows about it, or didn't know about it. It was one of his things. So he talks to Mercy, he talks to the employees, he talks to the Lex hologram, which he's not thrilled about doing, but that's the way it goes. So it turns out that this project was a fancy prison cell that was done in conjunction with Stryker's Island, and the prison there was only one prototype was ever built, and it was 300 feet below the prison. And it was designed so that whoever was in there would be in a complete sensory deprivation tank, and would never get out, right? It would deal with feeding them and stuff, but they would never get out. And Superman immediately is like, well, I can't trust...
Let him out!
Yeah, I can't trust that whoever Lex put in there deserved this type of punishment. And it's not like I like sending people to the Phantom Zone, so I'm going to go down and open. That said, though, I feel like Superman's naivete maybe shows a little bit here. I think going and checking who's there, absolutely. But like freeing him and saying, hey, I'm here to help, and expecting that he won't lash out, or whoever this may be, maybe a bit dumb on Superman's part.
Yeah, but again, he's a little bit too trusting. He believes in people a little bit more than he should. You know, I feel like this checks for Clark.
I guess, though, I'm thinking, even if this is someone who doesn't deserve it, even if this is a saint of a person, being down here for like 10 years in this situation might make them cranky.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why solitary confinement is the worst thing in prison, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you're alone with your thoughts, and this person, you know, in complete sensory deprivation, you know, 300 feet below the surface, like, it's extra on extra on extra. So yeah.
Yeah, I said tank, but it's actually more like a helmet that he's wearing over his head.
You know what? It kind of reminded me, I don't know how familiar you are with the X-Men and stuff, but when we learned about Proteus and his reality warping powers, you know, that Xavier had him, you know, kind of, I forget what island he was on, but they had him put away because he could, you know, hop from body to body, and then they'd lose track of him. This reminded me very similar to that whatever this guy's deal is, he's that much of a threat that he needs to be away from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, his eyes light up, and when he does start fighting, right, he gets really pissed. As soon as he realizes that Superman is kind of working for Lex Luthor in this case, he gets really upset about that. He starts flying, and notably, when Superman tries to blast him with heat vision, this guy just, like, redirects the beams. Like, he just sort of makes them go at a right angle. So he's got some form of telekinesis or something.
Well, there's that, and then he forms the Earth right into big hands to trap Superman, before he wraps him up in the same chains.
Yeah, and whoever this is from before Superman, well, not existed, but before he was publicly Superman, because he doesn't know who Superman is. This was before, so Lex stopped this ultra powerful being, whoever he is. Now, admittedly, he still might turn out to maybe be a good guy who Lex has turned into a villain by the way he's treated him. That's entirely possible. But clearly he is a bit dangerous right now. So the big cliffhanger at the end of the issue is that he's basically trapped Superman in this same prison and this mystery character's left. And Mercy's like, hey, Superman, I can't free you. The only person who can get you out of this now is, well, basically Lex Luthor. So
who wakes up, right? Yelling about Superman, what have you done?
Yeah, he just knows. He knows that prison's been owned. So I'm going to assume that the villains, you know, what Graft and whatever the other one was called, Dr. Farm, that they probably wanted this guy out. This is maybe someone who's going to work with them or something.
Yeah, it's designed chaos, right? If they're busy with the chain, then they can't pay attention to them. I also think the design's pretty cool. just the way that the chains are coming off of him, right? It's almost like they are like tentacles, but it's not in that Doc Ock kind of way, right? They're kind of just omnipresent.
Yeah, they're less symmetrical and like uniform. Yeah. They're more kind of squiggly wiggly.
Yeah. So it makes almost like an alien like form to this guy, who by all of the metrics is a normal human. With very powerful telekinesis. So
yeah. Which, by the way, next issue is 850. So I guess this was Legacy 849. They should start tracking this on this cover as well.
That would make sense. I like the art from Melnikov. I always butcher the name.
Melnikov.
Yeah, Melnikov. There we go. The only problem is the colors seem washed out, right? And I was so used to when Melnikov. Did they do it?
Yeah. Melnikov.
Melnikov. All right. When Melnikov was on Robin, I believe, the colors were a lot more vibrant and it matched his style a bit more. But I mean, it's not bad. It's just the colors just seemed washed out.
Well, I think they're only washed out in the back half because they're underground and they're going for this kind of tone. If you go back to the first half, when Lex or when Superman's just talking to Mercy at the Supercorp building, or the early action stuff out in the car chase, like they're all quite vibrant there. I think there's an intentional choice when they go underground to mute everything.
Well, I was even looking on like the Supercorp pages. Everything's got like this, it's the soft color palette, I guess, too, maybe of like Metropolis. It's almost like a watercolor type thing. But Melnikov's art's kind of angular in a way that I like. When not like too angular in a manga way. That I don't know, the vibrant colors pop on all the angles a little bit better than some of the softer. However, the layouts and breakdowns are really fantastic. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the art in this. Like, Melnikov is a solid artist. He's not a name that gets me excited necessarily, so I'm always kind of pleasantly surprised when I see his art and go, you know what, no, this is actually pretty good. It's got a style. It doesn't feel house style. It feels like it's got personality. The bigger moments, like the big, hands made out of the earth, like coming after Superman. That's a 2-page layout where there's a big wide panel going across the 2 pages. Yeah. And then you've got the smaller moments of action underneath. Like, I think that's really well framed and paced. So, yeah, the art's pretty solid. Obviously, we had Jamal Campbell on the first few issues of this.
Art.
Yeah. So, I'm not sure if Campbell's coming back or if we're just kind of switching now. But, I mean, if Melnikov ends up being the regular artist on this, that's not a bad choice. Like, I'm not going to be disappointed with that.
No, me neither.
So, no, I mean, this was a pretty solid issue. I think... honestly, the last couple issues of this have been quite good. I just felt very, very let down by the ending to that first arc, which was just the first 3 issues, because it set up some really cool stuff in issue 2, and then it just quickly wrapped it all up in issue 3. And you add on the fact that Williamson's let me down more often than not at this point. I'm very hesitant, but I can't really say I have much negative to say about this issue.
No, I like it, and it feels like he's like, this is ground that we've tread before, with the misunderstood villain, right, with Superman, but it also feels fresh at the same time. So, I appreciate it for that.
Yeah. All right. What are you giving Superman issue 6?
Solid 8.
Yeah, I think I'll go a nudge low and say 7.5, but it was it was good. I'm happy enough with it. All right, Nightwing 106, Tom Taylor writing and Stephen Byrne on the art. So, shock to the system at the start of this issue a little bit because they hit us with a little bit of Rick Grayson, and I was not prepared for such a thing.
But you know what? I love that Tom Taylor knows this. So if he hits us with Rick Grayson, we know it's a time in Dick's life.
Yeah, we know what he's we know he knows what he's doing with this, like when he's playing with this stuff.
Because I saw it, it said like another time in another life. I went, oh no.
Joe's so good about this though. So what this whole issue basically gets at is that the ship, which is the what did they call it again?
It's the Hold, right?
The Hold, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So the Hold was something we encountered a few issues ago before the last arc, and it was like, oh, there's something here for Nightwing, and Dick had no idea why it was there or who put it there. So this idea that this was something that was for Nightwing, for Dick Grayson, and Rick said, that's not really for me, so I'm just going to put it into this bank for Nightwing should he ever come back. Although I have to admit, I don't think I realized that Dick doesn't remember his time as Rick.
I didn't either.
Because obviously Rick never remembered his time as Dick beforehand, but I didn't realize that the time as Rick was.
It was vice versa. Yeah,
so that was a little surprising, but the issue does a good job of sort of telling us everyone who this character B is. Or is it Bia? I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's B.
It's just B. Who's this bartender that Rick was like? It was a regular character. She was there during Rick Grayson's time in the Nightwing book, which I didn't remember because I didn't read much of it because I hated it. But they do a good job of introducing her in this flashback at the start, which sets up this package, whatever it is, that's for Nightwing, and we see the old man who runs the place. The quartermaster, yes. Yeah. So that at the end, when we get to the cliffhanger and we see B again, we're like, oh, we know who that is. We have context for this. So I thought that was smart. So that stuff's good. Anyway, so present day, Nightwing is sleeping in a lot. Beast Boy is a dog and is playing with Haley on his bed.
It is so pure. I love it.
No one's happy about it except Beast Boy, of course. Well, I guess Haley's happy about it. Haley's
happy, yeah.
She's having a good time. But the big plot point this issue really is that Heartless, who's working with Zuko, goes after the Hold and kills the quartermaster and his guards. But they're very surprised to find when they go into this, this cavern at the beach, which is where we found the thing. And everyone will remember the big whale skeleton that led to the boat. When they go in, the boat's not there. It's empty. So someone moved the Hold. So they're very shocked by this. And Nightwing's also shocked by this because when he's at the crime scene afterwards and he's talking to Maggie Sawyer, he's like, hey, yeah, there's a big boat down there. And she's like, there's no boat. What are you talking about? Is there something you want to tell me, Nightwing? We get more details on this case to shed?
I love how he goes, I don't know the big one, Commissioner, but the sailor was known as the quartermaster. And Sawyer goes, that's not a name, right? She deals with people called Superman and Nightwing, and she's going to pick it quartermaster. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I just don't want to gloss over it too much, but I did enjoy the scene where it's Heartless versus Quartermaster, just because I like Quartermaster, like, yeah, we know you're stuck in the streets of Bloodhaven. We're aware of what's going on. But of course, Heartless whips out his heart extraction gun thing, which is still a wonderful, very horrific thing. So Nightwing gets on his bike. He chases down the ambulance that was taking the quartermaster's body because Oracle informs him that those people were actually employed by the health system. This is something shady. So Nightwing chases down the ambulance, and there's a bit of an action sequence here. Nightwing ends up riding his bike up over a car, so we get a nice big full page spread of him flying through the air. But he gets to the ambulance and beats up the guys. And then there's a surprise when he realizes the ambulance, despite the fact that he never, felt the truck stop, suddenly the ambulance is on a boat. It's not the Hold. It's not the old ship. It's just some ship.
It's on another boat, and because Oracle tells him, he's like, she says, I don't suppose that the ambulance is also a hovercraft, because the GPS is now in the harbor. So that's where he comes out, and they're on this barge boat. Not even a barge. It's more like a commercial fisher.
Yeah, it's not like a super fancy boat, but he gets out, and there's a bunch of people with guns and stuff, and they're like, don't move. And someone says, I, Captain Blood. And he's like, Captain Blood? And then that's when Bay shows up. She's the captain of this ship. She's got a pirate belt on. So I assume that they're the ones who have moved the Hold somewhere, and that these ambulance drivers that were stealing the body weren't bad guys per se. They were just part of this group who were retrieving his body. Yeah. Because, they're going to go bury him at sea or something. I don't know.
I love this kind of little secret society thing that exists in comics where it's totally plausible. There's this whole society of pirate sailors operating underneath the nose of the superheroes, because it's fun, and Tom Taylor knows that. Even though normally when you get Nightwing and Batman and these type of characters that are kind of street level, I like when it can get a little bit whimsical like this. So, you know, having Nightwing as a pirate for the next couple issues, I'm here for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. I like Quartermaster. I like the idea of the secret bank that people use. The actual pirate imagery and stuff, and B having a pirate belt and sword, I'm just kind of like, whatever. I'm not a Whimsy fan like you are.
Yeah.
Whimsy's not my thing. But I don't hate it by any means, and I am interested in what's in the box, as Nightwing puts it. What's in the box?
Yeah. Also, when Quartermaster faces down Heartless, he calls him a stupid, spoiled boy. So it's almost as if Quartermaster even knows, right?
Yeah, I wonder if it's implying that he knows more, or if is it just a case of he's so good at reading people that he's like, no, you're a spoiled brat. Like, whoever you are, you're a spoiled rich kid.
Well, either way, it just shows that he's been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
That you know, not maybe like there's like magical life thing, but he's seen a lot in his role as a quartermaster. Whether he knows that Heartless is who he is, or like you said, he's just been around and can read people better. But yeah, I like that part too, and this also building the mythology of Bloodhaven, which, if I remember my DC history right, it started off as a whaling town. So the idea that you had the whale bones with the hold, and now you have Captain Blood. Or Blood.
I said Blood because I say Bloodhaven, but I don't know.
But does it have the umlauts? It does have the umlauts. So yeah, it would be Blood. So just the whole idea, you know.
So it sounds weird to say on its own, Blood. Just Blood.
Yeah, right?
Blood.
But yeah, again, it's very silly and whimsical, and I like this kind of stuff. But also, I feel like Tom Taylor has a thing, because I feel there's something similar in Suicide Squad. Or maybe that was just the what was the name of the Revolutionaries? They had a boat too that they went around. I don't
remember the name of it, but yeah, they were on a boat for a while.
They were going around too, so I don't know. Maybe he's just got a thing for boats, like Hawkeye. He does boats.
Yeah, and then there's a backup story, and this is the first part of a 3-part backup story, which is Dick is training with Cass, which is fun enough, but it turns out to be this is more about Dick teaching her how to cook. So he's teaching Cass how to bake pancakes, and there's some nefarious figure who looks like he's right out of the 1930s with his pencil mustache and hat. If I didn't know better, I'd have said this is Matches Malone. Watching from the distance, but he's surveying the place and he's talking about this Dick Grayson. Like, basically he's talking about how Dick's got a lot of money, but he's living with all the poor people still, and how whatever group he represents is looking to deal with them. And we see this trio of guys who are very similarly dressed. They've all got the mustaches, they've all got sunglasses, they've all got leather jackets. Like, honestly, if you said that they were all going out to a gay bar after this, I wouldn't argue against you. Do you know that scene in Police Academy when they go to the gay bar, the Blue Oyster, and they all start dancing? Yep. These guys they're all out of that scene.
Yep. Definitely see that wouldn't be written in the 2020s now. You know, that is a relic of the 80s. Yeah.
And they've got lots and lots of stuffed bears, and they refer to themselves as the 3 bears. So I guess the other guy in the car who's surveying Dick's place, or the Batgirl's place, is just a hired PI. But he's got such a similar style to these guys that I feel like they're part of the same group. But whatever.
Yeah. I read this late, so I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember the cooking part of it. Their smiles are very creepy on top of it too. I don't know if that's just the art or if that's the intent.
Yeah, I like the art kinda, but it definitely has like every smile looks like they're up to something sinister kind of vibe. It's kind of weird. But Steph arrives from patrolling and comes in and is all excited to try these pancakes. So Dick, Steph, and Cass are hanging around having pancakes. Haley's having the Byrne pancakes, although she's not actually eating them because they look horrible. And probably the best laugh of the whole issue is that Steph goes to shut the blinds, and the PI with the big glasses and the mustache is watching through his binoculars, and he sees Steph at the window shutting the blinds, and he says, "How many broads is this guy dating?" and throws his binoculars in the back seat and drives off. And that gave me a good chuckle. Because obviously he's just here hanging out with the other Batgirls. But oh dear. Honestly, as far as backups go, this like I thought this was a perfect little bit of just silly fun. Like I think it just worked on its own as a fun little thing. I obviously like seeing Stefan Cass. Notably, it's written by Michael Conrad, who was one of the two writers on the Batgirls book. So I think that's probably an intentional thing. Serge Acuna is the artist.
Yeah.
So, and I do enjoy the art overall. I think it's got a good overall look to it. And I think the way he draws faces is really good for the villains, but maybe not as good. Like, Dick always looks like he's plotting something. Like, every time he smiles in this backup, he looks like he's plotting to, like, steal someone's dog or something. I don't know.
For sure.
But it's a bad. I thought it was a fun little backup, though. I'm down for more.
I like when we get... Dick working with the Batgirls, right? Like, because we always get him and Barbara, but the fact that there's two other Batgirls and that whole relationship between, you know, Nightwing and Robin and all that type of stuff, it really makes it feel like a Bat family.
Yeah,
still,
if Damien's his little brother, it makes sense that you would maybe treat Cass like a little sister. You know, there's logic to that. I think I do like when backups are a bit more just fun like this, because it's like, okay, the main story should probably be the more serious one with the more big stakes. So if you're going to do like a little slice of life thing in the backup, that's fine by me. But I did enjoy that. So what are you rating Nightwing 104 overall, or 106 sorry overall?
I will give it, because we got a factor in the backup, which was fine, I'll give this a 7.5.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just go with a straight 7 on this one. Like I enjoyed both the main story and the backup, without any of them ever like really going to like the heights of the series, you know? I'm not as into the pirate stuff necessarily, but I do like the mystery of the package that's for Dick that we'll eventually see what it is later in the arc, I assume. And some of the action is fun. And, you know, obviously the art here is pretty solid. I miss Redondo, but you know, it's absolutely a good fill-in to sort of complement that style.
Yeah, and it's Stephen Byrne too, who, you know, always works like with what was it? Who's the writer on Wonder Twins? Why am I drawing a blank?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on his name. It's great stuff. He also did the Flintstones, but the style here for the art almost kind of is trying to match Redondo, but it's also uniquely Stephen Byrne. So the fact that he's adapting to kind of fit the style of Nightwing, I appreciate. Because usually Stephen Byrne's art is very bubbly and rounded and soft edges. Here it had a little bit more of the straight lines and the darker lines. So, which I like. You know, because it feels like Nightwing still. You know, the Tom Taylor version. So, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Green Lantern War Journal issue 1, Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Montos on the art. So, yeah, obviously the backups from Green Lantern kind of led into this, and they were a bit messy because it was sort of like we didn't know if it was the future or whatever. It turned out to be a different universe with a John Stewart, and it was feeding into what the story was going to be. And the last part of that backup last week ended up being the best part of it, because it kind of gave context to everything that had been going on. So we were kind of looking forward to War Journal issue 1 and getting a new Green Lantern John Stewart book, and yeah, it's pretty good. I'm quite happy with this.
Man, the Green Lantern books are such in a good place right now, because they're kind of everything that I want in Green Lantern. In here, it's got that little bit of, I don't know if it's pathos, because you're getting that emotion with John and his mom, and that stuff really hits home in this issue. And it gets balanced by all the, you know, the stuff that's happening on the space station and all that action. But
for the record, just before we get going further here, is that you can absolutely read this without reading that back up from the Green Lantern book.
For sure.
It gives we had a little bit of context coming in to what type of story it was going to be, but it sets things up well, where it sets up that John's staying with his mom, he's missing life as a Green Lantern. You know, after the opening big space scene, which we'll talk about, we get a few pages where he's stuck in traffic, he's clearly stressed by that, and like there's like a quick panel of like him flying with jets as Green Lantern, and he's clearly longing for that freedom, and then the traffic light turns green, things like that.
Yeah, it reminds me of the last scene of The Hurt Locker when he's kind of paralyzed in the aisle. Picking the cereal, because that's not a decision that's life or death like he was used to, and that's almost like John here, right? When he's digging holes, but he's flashing back to stopping these floodwaters on this alien planet, so it's almost kind of like, not quite that it's PTSD, but it's almost like he has like that call for action that he should be doing more with his life.
But he wants to spend time with his mother, who's reaching the end of her days, and that becomes clear as it goes on later with where that stuff goes. But the opening scene is this great scene in space where some entity in a ring, right? It looks kind of like a Star Sapphire ring, but obviously it's from this other universe.
It's the Radiant Dead Queen.
And it does, although never mentioned that in this year though, right?
Well, no, so that I was going to say, the only thing that you would garner from the backups in Green Lantern is the concept of the Radiant Dead.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll obviously get to that name in this book. But I'm just clarifying for anyone who didn't read the backups, but it's just reading this and listening to this review, like, yeah, it's like we get this ring showing up, and there's clearly a voice that comes with it. And this astronaut who's on a spacewalk in the space station, the energy of this like arrival puts the space station into turmoil. It starts to malfunction, and they're all screaming and they're saying, "Hey, you have to connect the Earth thing out there, otherwise we're all going to suffocate." But she's too busy being entranced by this floating ring that's coming towards her, and she's reaching out to it. And there's this great moment where the ring's kind of like big in the negative space, and the astronaut's like really small coming towards her. Like she's actually inside the loop of the ring. But then you get this close up, and it's like a reflection of the monster lady, like in the reflection. So it's like really good, like horror movie. Like something's come from space and possessed this woman and turned her into this monster. She looks like a skeleton that's on purple fire. The next page.
No, you're not. It's almost like he's Philip Kennedy Johnson said practice from writing an Alien book, too, playing with that concept. You know what?
I mean, we not mentioned the art yet, but I was thinking during this this scene, I was like, damn, this artist could do an Alien, because the artist is great. I don't know who Montos is. I don't think I've heard of Montos, but I loved the art in this book. I thought all this stuff in space looked great. There's a nice eye for detail in the right places.
Oh yeah, and so it balances all that actiony stuff, right, and horror stuff in the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The horror stuff is all really visually striking. Like all that stuff's really good. Yeah, I think the art's really good, and then it also handles the quiet moments with John afterwards as well, when he's stuck in traffic, or he's fixing the sink or whatever. All is good. I was actually really impressed by the art. So. Yeah, it sets up that the mum is like, reminiscing about this old story of John taking a part of a clock, and she keeps saying, "Oh, when is so and so coming? When's your little sister coming home?" And the tone kind of drops when she says that, and John's kind of awkward about it. And then we find out later, obviously there's an action thing in the middle here, but we find out later that the little sister, and you might know this from DC history, but John's little sister has been dead for some time, and the mom has clearly got something like dementia or something like that. She repeats that story that she was telling earlier. She clearly she doesn't know that she's already told that story today.
It's so heartbreaking too, and the way that John just deals with it is like, yeah, Mom, I remember that story, and you could tell he's just barely holding it together.
Yeah, and he makes a construct of his little sister so that the mom can see her, and it is really sad, and it's like, not only is he feeling, because we got the sense that he was staying with his mom in the backup because maybe she needs some help, because she's getting old and she's sick or whatever. But it never got to this idea that she's got full-blown dementia and that he's having to deal with that. So this longing for the adventure and the idea that to him is easier, like flying with jets and like fighting aliens, that's easier to him than dealing with what his mother's fighting with in the house. I think that's a really interesting
for sure.
To point out.
And it goes into his whole idea too of John the Builder, right? Can
he fix it? Yes, he can.
Can he? Right, but like this is a problem he can't fix, right? Like there's nothing that he could do Green Lantern energy that's going to help his mom.
Yeah,
so he just has to be present for her.
The whole story with the dismantling of the clock that she keeps bringing up is there to tell us, no, he's always had this like fascination with breaking down mechanical things and understanding how they work from the inside, but you can't do that with a human. It doesn't work the same.
Right.
So this Green Lantern shows up. That's just, I don't know who this Green Lantern is. It's a random Green Lantern, I think.
It's a random Green Lantern, and you get through the scene, then I'll give my thoughts, because I have a lot. Yeah,
so basically he's like, hey, we've got readings here of energy of a Green Lantern ring, but you're not meant to have one. You've been fired or whatever. So basically he's like, hey, I'm going to go into that house and arrest everyone because you shouldn't have this energy. And then John whips up a construct and makes it clear that he doesn't need a ring. He doesn't use a ring anymore. He can just make Green Lantern constructs with his body, which is kind of a big deal. It's
a massive deal.
So he punches him back into space and makes it clear that, no, there's no unauthorized ring. I just have a natural connection to the Green Lantern energy for whatever reason. So I don't know if that was set up in another book that I wasn't reading or something, but this was a big deal to me with it.
Yeah, it always kind of goes with the idea of John Stewart as the Guardian, right? It's like he almost ascends Green Lantern hood and he almost becomes a human Guardian, and he can tie into the green energy much like Ganthet and all of them do. So when this lantern shows up, and it's all part of the the Green Lantern Corps being a part of the United Planets.
Yeah, it's the Green Lantern of the United Planets or something.
And like, for as much as I am tired of the space opera-y type stuff, when Bendis did that by having the the United Planets pop in, and then the Green Lanterns becoming part of that, it added this whole level of bureaucracy that even more than what we were getting in other Green Lantern books. So I give credit to both Philip Kennedy Johnson and Jeremy Adams for giving us Green Lanterns outside the bounds, because both Hal has that new ring that we still don't understand. Which
I'm pretty sure, I guess it's just not showing up on their readings because it's like it's being made with a different thing. But I was thinking, hey, if anyone on Earth's got an unauthorized Green Lantern ring, it's Hal Jordan over there in Coast City. Maybe I go check that out, buddy.
Right. There's that, and then there's just John doing all of this, but like, they're still being able to be Green Lanterns outside of this United Planets bureaucracy. So it definitely gives it more of that superhero kind of outlaw kind of vibe that I feel like it gives both characters an edge there, that just having them be space cops doing stuff on Earth is kind of lacking. So
I mean, you say that, but honestly, just having them being on Earth's the big thing to me. Like, I was so sick of them just being on all these random different planets. It was constantly just like having this being titled to Earth, and they can have visitors from other places. Like, they can have Green Lanterns come down and talk to them. That's all fine. You can still have that as the backdrop to the Green Lantern universe, but I think having this like human connection where he's got this sick mother that he's dealing with, and even then the threat that they set up here at the end, which let's say the end, the start and the end. The start obviously introduced the villain, and this astronaut became possessed with whatever this force is. The end of the issue is that this Green Lantern from the same universe that the ring and the villain came from shows up and searches the wreckage of the space station. And a couple of notable things here before we even get to the plot is that the way his ring talks to him is a little bit different to the way that the rings in our universe talk to the lanterns. Like, it's like this is actually a person who used to be a person and is now a ring, as opposed to...
It reminds me more of what Jess dealt with, with the power ring from the evil universe.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but not evil, just a little snarky. So he's searching the ship, and so he's Lantern Shepherd. We find out his name. And he's got a very, the Green Power Ranger had that gold shield that he wore over his outfit.
It is.
Yeah, it's just like, imagine that, but that's green over black, and that's what this Green Lantern outfit is for this guy. But he is looking for, because we don't realize this at the start, but what it turns out to be is that the other astronauts in the ship have all been infected and effectively turned into space zombies, right? And this is where... like, it adds some more context to that backup, and I kind of realized what some of it was getting at now. But effectively, between what he says in the ring is that, wait a minute, okay, she's here, she's infected these astronauts, the space zombie virus is spreading. The Radiant Dead's the actual name they give them. I'm just saying space zombie because it sounds cooler. And it's like, okay, so he fights them and he deals with them, or he's in the middle of dealing with them, but the ring reminds him, hey, like, if there's space zombies up here, then part of this station may have fell to Earth, and if this Earth has already started to spread this space zombie virus effectively, then it might be lost. This may not be where the final battle's held. You have to find the one we're here to find. We have to find John Stewart. And we know from the backup the reason why they're looking for John Stewart is because John Stewart's kind of their hero on their universe. So
and he is tied to the whole idea of the Radiant Dead being multiversal, right? Is that the Radiant Dead, or the Radiant Queen, is kind of tied to John Stewart as well. She's looking for him too. So whatever.
She's not tied to our John Stewart though. She's looking for our John Stewart because she hates her John Stewart and wants to go after him. I don't even know if it's just a straight up vengeance thing or if it's just whatever it may be. But
whatever it is, but yeah, and so like you said, you like to call them space zombies. It's more fun, but the idea of Radiant Dead as a name kind of reminds me of Romero calling them the Living Dead and never like out and out zombies.
Sure, yeah, that's the nice.
So it gives it a little bit of a panache.
Okay, I can get on board with that. I think this was a good first issue. I think this was it set up the emotional place that John's in. It gave us some connections to him as a human and like the characters around him, and then the thread that it sets up here is super interesting. Way more interesting than it ever was in that backup. Like, I think the simple idea that some kind of zombie queen has come from this other universe and is potentially going to infect our entire Earth and is targeting specifically John Stewart, but we also have, like, it's almost a little bit Terminator in that instead of coming from the future, they're coming from another universe, and this is at the end of the book, this is the Kyle Reese who's coming back and saying, oh, I need to go find John Stewart before she does. I mean, his name's even John, like John Connor. Like,
true. He has to say, come with me if you want to live, right?
Oh, maybe he will. Maybe they'll even make that reference. But I do think it's this idea, and maybe this is tied into the fact that John can make his own constructs. He's special in some way, and that's why he's important to stopping her, and maybe why she's like, I'm going to conquer this universe instead. I just have to make sure I take out that pesky John Stewart first. Yeah. So that was good, and then the art was great throughout.
Montos is really good. It's moody where it needs to be. So like the horror zombie stuff is, it has its own vibe, like, and then the at-home John Stewart stuff has its own vibe, but they match perfectly. All the stuff they mesh together well.
Yeah, all the stuff in space looks really good. That panel where Lantern Shepherd's looking through the ship, and you get the Radiant Dead crawling out of the darkness down the shaft in the bottom half of the page. That is a fantastic page. It's really good horror stuff. Yeah. And obviously because we're dealing with all these dark spaces in space and through this ship, the green light really pops as he's looking through.
Yeah, the colorist is earning it in this one. Because the purple off of the Radiant Dead, the green off of the lanterns, everything is very vibrant, and like you said, it pops. But yeah, my really kind of the only thing is kind of towards the end where the Radiant Dead start coming out. Some of the stuff of Lantern Shepherd looks a little rough, but I mean that's picking nits at this point. It was a very good first issue. I mean, who would have thought Philip Kennedy Johnson on Green Lantern would end up being a hit?
I mean, you say that. I think the only reason why there was any doubt is because the backup was a bit messy. But I mean, I think that was just because he was trying to get across like really confusing, complex ideas in a backup. Yeah. This is an issue one. This like we've come into it with a little bit of context from the backup, which let us maybe understand it a little better. But even if you didn't, I think this issue clearly takes its time and sets up the main things it needs to set up. I don't think anyone will feel lost reading this first issue at all. It's very good. It's great that we have two, and honestly I think we're going to have a fight now between the Lantern books as to which one is better. This might be the better of the two. It's hard to say after one issue, but I mean that's good. It's good that they're going to be duking it out. There's going to be like a fight between them. When we really like, say, Detective Comics, we would rather Batman was fighting it for the title of the best Batman book, but the truth is that usually one's just clearly the better one at the time, and the other one's just okay or whatever. So it's maybe nice that we'll have a bit of a fight here, but the strong focus and direction and tone of this issue and character and artwork is all just telling me that this might be the better of the two. But it's hard to say because we've had 3 issues of the other one. We've only had 1 issue of this.
Yeah, I like that they're both different, but they're both tackling, again, the kind of outsider Green Lantern on Earth. But in their own ways, whereas, John here is trying to fix those problems, whereas Hal is still essentially just being Hal and being that hotshot pilot, character. They're both distinct, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I'm seeing what other art Montos has done, and there's not a lot. So hopefully this is the coming out party for Montos, because it says that
I hope so.
He's worked on a book with Christopher Priest called Entropy. But that's really the only thing that's coming up, and that's a lot of Green Lantern.
Yeah, maybe they're just very new, but at the very least, yeah. I hope they stick around on this book as the regular artist, because this was very, very good. So, what are you rating Green Lantern War Journal issue 1?
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
I gotta make it go a little bit higher, say 9. I thought it was really good. I thought it was another. I think we had 2 great issue 1s this week, and this was the lesser of the 2, which is an incredible bar to be setting. So, very good. All right, moving on. Batman Superman World's Finest issue 18. Mark Waid writing with Travis Moore on the art. So. This is wrapping up the 2-parter of the first Batman and Superman team-up story. Jack Sewer's out of the Phantom Zone. He's trapped Batman. So we get a lot of Superman and Jack Sewer fighting. We get a lot of Batman in the Phantom Zone talking to Alfred, who'd already been put in there last issue. And yeah, I think this looks really great. I think the art's really strong. There's some really fun stuff. I would say that my favorite part of it is when Superman's communicating with Batman and telling him who Jack Sewer is and what he did. I think we even talked last issue about we weren't sure if this continuity had the whole Krypton banned space travel thing, but this issue clarifies no, they absolutely did, and it was always kind of frowned upon, but Jack Sewer trying to build a ship and accidentally killing 10,000 Kryptonians on their moon is what Ironclad said, that's it, we're done, this is outlawed. And what I like about that is Superman says he holds Jack Sewer partly responsible for the death of Krypton, and what I like about that is that he's not saying, Jack Sewer's responsible in any way for the planet exploding, because I hate when someone's behind that, but what he's saying is that we could have evacuated possibly thousands or millions of people if he hadn't set the path of no, the tolerance on space travel is just done because of what he did. It
wouldn't have been just Kal and Kara that make it off as Krypton's coming to an end. We could have had a whole colony, of Kryptonians at one point.
Yeah,
which is a nice little subtle layer to the mythos.
Yeah, I like that, and this is obviously pre-Kara landing, because when he goes after other Kryptonians, it's actually the bottled city of Kandor that he tries to melt with his heat vision because he doesn't like. Well,
it's almost like the Phantom Zone has driven him mad.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, the biggest thing here is obviously they eventually, get rid of him. They throw him back in the Phantom Zone or whatever. They trick him. Batman takes the Phantom Zone projector once he's back out into the fortress, and he puts the tech into the floor, so it's not actually in the projector itself, and then that tricks him, and Jack Sewer goes back to the Phantom Zone. But there's a big splash page of the statue of his parents, Superman's parents crumbling. Yeah, that's good stuff. It's all just really fun.
I like too that at the end here, after they get Jack Sewer back in the Phantom Zone, Superman's like, I didn't know how much I could do the rope-a-dope much longer, right? So he was letting Jack Sewer, think that he was getting the upper hand. But he still agrees. Batman's like, yeah, but you still need to learn how to fight, man. Just in case, you come across somebody. So I like that Batman's kind of the person that's kind of
Yeah, it's kind of training for Zod in a way, because that's always the argument, is that Superman's had his powers at least since puberty. And... he's never had to learn how to properly fight tactically, because he's never had, he's always had this upper hand, that, just by his strength and stuff. So it's no, you have to learn how to actually fight and, be able to dodge and take hits and know your limits and things like that. So, yeah, that all makes sense. So, obviously, they captured the Riddler, who has been used as a puppet, and all the rest of it. But the big thing at the end of this show, which I was not expecting, is they tease that these... So, basically there was these little fluctuations in the Phantom Zone walls, these little portals that were opening, which is how Jaxer was able to do all this stuff.
Right.
And it turns out that some mysterious hooded figure with a device was in the Phantom Zone causing these little ripples. And then he disappears during the course of the issue, and that's when the ripples stop. So they deduced that it was probably him that was causing them. So who is he, and what did he want? Like, what's he up to? And I was surprised when we get to the end and we get this little epilogue of this figure saying, this place is horrible, this Phantom Zone's a purgatory, and someday they'll all be released. It says to be continued in Action Comics in 2024. I was not expecting this to be setting up something for the Action Comics book.
No,
assuming
me neither.
Assuming it's still Johnson writing that book when this story comes up. I don't know if it will be, but interesting.
The clothing seems like... It seems familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because this guy's giving me Time Trapper vibes from the Legion. Who wore like a purple hooded cloak that you couldn't see his face.
Yeah, this is green and white stripes with like a gold cape, effectively.
Yeah, like a gold cape. And he's holding like this orb type thing that's kind of like metal, like spun into each other, so it creates almost like a metal type ball thing. But he says his name is Aether the Messiah. And yeah, I don't know. No.
There's some. Oh no, sorry. I was going to say no. He says I, not Aether the Messiah, but no, he says not I, not Aether the Messiah. So you're right. Yeah, that's his name.
And so and he doesn't like the idea of the Phantom Zone. So whoever this guy is, right, and he's creepy, man. He feels like a phantom, and not like in the Phantom Zone way, but just like, So yeah, props to Waid for adding a bit of creepiness.
Yeah, it's just interesting that they've obviously got some things mapped out, that they're seeding something in a 2-part backstory, setting up like the first time Superman and Batman met, that there's a seed in there for an Action Comics storyline coming next year. I just think that's interesting. I wonder if it is still Johnson or whoever's planned to be writing it when that time comes, then have they worked with Waid here? Is it Waid himself taking a bit of time on Action next year? I don't know, but it's curious. Next time on this book, we're doing some Kingdom Come stuff, so we'll
back to Boy Thunder and the boy who would be Magog.
Yeah, he's just Magog now, right? Or Magog. So, is it Magog or Magog?
I don't know. I think we could say either or, because I've never heard it I've only read it.
Okay.
So
I'll say Majog.
Majog. No, it's a hard G.
Majog.
Like Jeff.
Majog. It's not Jeff, it's Gif. Shut your mouth.
No, it's GIF. But some people say it's actually GIF because it's graphical. Right? That's what the G's short for.
Graphic starts with a hard G.
Right. Right. I say GIF too, but some people say GIF. I'm just saying.
And they're wrong. All of them.
Right. Majog.
All right. Well, I was going to say something. The art's pretty solid. It's just nice, and it's got the flatness, it's got the Silver Age look to it. Nice big bold colors. I mean, honestly, I feel bad for it because it's really good art, but like this week there's a lot of good art, so it's kind of paling in comparison a little bit. But it really fits. Spoiled. It fits the old school vibe the book's going for sure. There's some good action layouts. There's a lot of like Superman and Jaxer like hitting each other through the sky, and when they're in the fortress hitting into the statues and all that. It's quite good. So I particularly like when Jaxer's kneeing Superman in the face, you can see Superman's like cheek sort of like bunched up as it's hitting him. It's a nice little detail.
Full on V trigger there.
This is a V trigger, you're right. All right, what are you rating World's Finest, Matt?
I'm gonna give it 7.5.
Yeah, I think 7.5 sounds right to me. I'll agree with that. All right. Titans, issue 3, Tom Taylor writing with Nicola Scott on the art. So we're dealing with the Church of Blood, but the Church of Eternity now, as they're saying.
With a few bad seeds. You know.
The issue starts with Beast Boy as a bat flying in, and then letting Dick in. And they're basically here just to do some recon and just figure out, like, are they actually up to something bad? And there's some interesting banter between them in this first couple of pages. I really like how, like, hey, we're here to see if they're bad guys or not, and whatever. And there's some entertaining exchanges. But right at the end of that page, they hear chanting saying, "All for you, all for you," and Beast Boy's like, "Hey, let's not judge anything before we see what's going on. Chanting's not inherently evil." And then you turn the page, and the cult are about to sacrifice a woman, and they're saying, "Trigon, we offer you this." And I got a good laugh out of that. I thought that was quite funny.
No, that was a good one. Here's my thing too. Have we ever seen Beast Boy turn into a swarm of bees before? Because I always seen him turn into one bee or an ant. So is this a new thing he can do, or is this just, creative liberties being taken?
Yeah, I was a little confused by it. I thought he had like a bunch of like nanobots like with him that were inside, but then it does seem like it is just him that's turning into a swarm.
Yeah. Which again, it doesn't change the outcome of the issue at all. It's just one of those things that longtime Teen Titans and Titans reader, if Beast Boy's turned into a bug, it's singular. It's not the entire swarm.
Yeah.
So
the question becomes is like, if he can do a swarm of bugs, can he do like 10 elephants?
Right.
Since mass doesn't seem to be the issue, because he could be turned into something that's much bigger than him. So there is like a logical question there that I guess maybe could be,
because he goes from a bat into these bees into a mouse into, are they spiders or ants?
I think they're ants.
Yeah. So, but it's just to get them in, because it makes for a fun moment where the guy that's doing security is covered in ants. And it's, he's trying to knock him off, but it's Beast Boy.
So anyway, they jump out and save the woman, and all the cult members start getting into the big pool of blood, because the blood from the pool gives them like enhanced strength. So we get this insane visual of all these guys in their boxers all just dripping red blood. Yep. It's a hell of a thing.
Fighting a gorilla, Beast Boy, and Nightwing, which, come on. This is right up my alley.
So they call in the Titans. Wally's not supposed to go because they believe he's going to be murdered in the next 48 hours, but Wally's like, nah, screw that, I'm a hero, I'm going. Yeah. So sure enough, they all go. And this is a little payoff, actually, because they boom tube in, and earlier on, Gar was like, hey, why did we just use the boom tube? And he's like, because it makes a loud noise, Gar, and we're trying to be stealthy.
We're trying to be stealthy, and then the boom tube arrives, and he's like, oh, now I know what you're saying about stealth.
Yeah, but what I love about it is he's an alligator when he says that, so it just adds an extra layer of absurdity to the moment. So in walks Garth. Tempest, yeah. And he's like, what's going on here? And he actually teams up with the Titans, and they fight all the cult members. They eventually knock them all down, and out walks, or no, they go back into the dungeon area, and there's their leader, Brother Eternity. And basically, it turns out that this was, the rest of the cult weren't happy with the new direction that the cult was going in, and Eternity's like, no, like, we are trying to make the world a better place. Tempest is helping, make the world a better place. We are good. This wasn't us. This was them. Like, they tied me up and they were going to do this because they weren't happy that we weren't just worshipping Trigon. So it sets up that maybe they're good. Obviously, by the end of the issue, we see otherwise. But it's just enough to maybe the Titans will stay off their back just slightly. However, Wally, the sneaky bugger, stole a meteor that they had hooked up to a machine in the back of the church. And when Brother Eternity discovers this, he's very upset about it, and he tells Tempest he's going to have to go. And he refers to everything that happened in the church tonight as a ruse to throw the Titans off. So this was all put on for their benefit. And it's okay, so why is Tempest working with them then? And then the final page is Brother Eternity opening his mouth, and Garth is opening his mouth, and these bug tentacle things are going from his mouth into his. They're basically doing like a body snatchers style thing here, and it's gross, it's wonderful, I like it. Yeah,
and so the meteor, right? So when we learned about the fire, right, with Starfire, I think that's issue 1 or 2, right? There was something about her ties to Tamarin. I'm wondering if this body snatcher thing is going to tie into Starfire and that whole whole thing, because she seems very concerned about the meteor, right? When it looks, it pushes into her eyes, when she says it's a meteor.
Yeah, it's just very intense on her eyes. I was wondering if this meteor actually brought these like mind control bug things to Earth, like if we're doing like a sort of, I wouldn't say venom, but
no. Well, no, it is very Body Snatchers, right?
Yeah, Body Snatchers is the best comparison, I'd say.
Yeah.
Probably more reversible, I assume, because we're going to have Tempest back. Well, maybe not. Honestly, if DC were going to give Tom the okay to kill someone, Tempest honestly would probably be on the list.
Yeah, he's kind of expendable. He is. We have other Aqua characters, right now.
Oh god. They should totally do a team-up book called The Expendables, but unlike the movie The Expendables, it's all the characters that DC would let the writers kill off.
Oh my god. And put Rosenberg on that one, because he's good at killing characters.
It would be... that's what, in theory, I suppose that's what Suicide Squad's supposed to be, but it's not actually that.
But we never, and those characters we never care about. Give me an I would care if Garth was in that book, and he does die.
It would be Tempest, it would maybe be, I don't know, Roy Harper. I believe they'd let them kill Roy Harper.
I mean, they've done it before.
They have done it before. Maybe, since they've got a new Wonder Girl who's Diana's daughter, maybe we could put in Yara. Maybe they'll let people kill her off. I could just see a team of, these characters might actually die because they're expendable. Anyway.
So, I do like the whole ruse, right? Because I feel like Taylor hooked us with the ruse, too, that, thought this was just going to be, the Church of Blood and Trigon and Raven. But now you're throwing a kind of body snatchery element onto it to subvert expectations. Also, we got that nice line of when Garth comes in, Beast Boy is like, yeah, your new friends suck. It's just, he has the voice and their interactions down very, very well.
I think a thematic touch that I quite like is that because it's a cult, and cults are known for manipulating and controlling their members and persuading them of things. I like the idea that this thematically ties to that, but it's just more literal. This Brother Eternity is literally controlling them with this alien beastie thing.
Yeah, whatever it is.
So
it makes me feel icky too. There's the spiky kind of. It's almost like a centipede kind of vibe.
Oh, you love it.
Yeah. No, I do not.
And obviously Nicola Scott is Nicola Scott. Yeah,
it is. We're spoiled on this one.
Yeah, we do have time to finish by, so I'm going to rush us along here a little bit.
Yes.
But what are you rating Titans issue 3?
I'm going to give Titans issue 3 a solid 8.
Yeah, I agree with that. 8 out of 10. I think it's a good book. I think it sets up where we're going. I like the subversion that they are still villains, but they're not doing the same thing as before. There's something else at play here.
Yeah.
There's a third party, an entity that's involved. So yeah, there you go. So you read Hawkgirl issue 3 by Jadzia, Axelrod, and Amancay and Nahuelpan. So if you want to quickly give us a bit of thoughts on that.
Yeah. So just broad strokes is. Galaxy and Hawkgirl go into Gotham, where they were going to head in from the last issue, because they're teaming up with Batman, because Batman has some information about whatever her name is, the Fox villain. And so while they're there, they run into Barbara's friend. What's her name? I'm going to try to get back to that page. She's walking through Gotham. I think is it Alicia? Yeah. And this gang that are fans of Killer Croc go to attack her. They're called the Croc Block. Yeah.
Don't gloss over that. The Croc Block's a great name.
It is. And so they're attacking her. Alicia is talking about how she's the head cook at this place. She's on the phone. And then a image like Batman comes over the setting sun. And one of the members of the Croc Block goes, "Who are you?" And Hawkgirl slams in and goes, "I'm Batman." And it's done in the word bubble is taking the form of the bat. And it's all bold. I'm going to imagine she's yelling at Christian Bale. Just for my own guilty pleasure. But yeah, so Galaxy and Argus, her corgi, and Kendra all, take these guys out, save Alicia. Batman finds out that one of these guys that he knows from the rich guy realm, whose name is Farlane. Where's it at? Farlane Candor. He wants Bruce to sit on the, or Bruce wants him to sit, or hold on. Let me read it. I just read this today. He wants Bruce to sit on this board so he can, pump up the value of his company. And Bruce notices on his desk, there's what looks like nth metal, right? So Bruce is letting her know this. Kendra starts realizing like there's almost like multiple timelines at play because Fairlane's assistant Ava Diaz died, but nobody else besides Kendra remembers. So Batman's like, well, let's pay a visit because I saw his assistant. She was alive. So it's Vulpicula, by the way. So they crash this get together that Vulpicula and Farlane are having, only for him to recruit the Court of Owls and their talons. So as a ploy, to run for power in Gotham and protection, he ends up getting the Talons, and they get super nerfed here because, we've seen the Talons almost like out the Bat family, but here Galaxy, Batman, and Hawkgirl are able to hold their own against a whole army of them. Kendra takes a couple of them up to like far enough that enough G's are going to pass them out, because while they might be basically indestructible and they'll heal, they still need to breathe, and the G's will cause enough issues with the brain that they'll shut off for time. So she swoops back down. Vulpicula stabs Fairlane with that piece of Kendra's wing that she stole from the last episode, and he becomes this gigantic owl beast. Very, very similar to one of the creatures that we saw in the last issue. He starts attacking her. They're flying up and around. And Kendra starts having like this almost identity crisis where he starts telling her, like, you're nothing but a fake. You're not the real Hawk woman, right? You're barely Hawkgirl. You're nothing. And that's where Kendra goes off. It's like, you don't even know me. I've stood against all these other people that are trying to tell me who I am. Nobody can tell me who I am. Your opinion doesn't matter. And she slips and calls him Carter. So it seems like Kendra's having some issues here with Hawkman. She also says that, she had Zoriel, a little angel, look me in the eyes and tell me that I was someone else. And so, yeah. So she ends up like savagely beating Fairlane in this owl form to where as she's beating him and yelling, it's just like, I don't need you, Carter. He dissolves into dust as he's saying, who's Carter? So Batman and Galaxy end up having this, conversation about his whole Bat mystique, and Galaxy actually makes Batman smile just because of their whole, like, their entire vibe is just this bubbly, super talkative, and goes, hey, you know what? You do belong here. And Kendra mentions to Galaxy, like, wow, Batman said more than 2 words to you. He used 3. He must actually like you. So the issue ends with Kendra going to meet her friend Abilene from the beginning. And
also, Matt, I love your definition of broad strokes.
Yeah, just real quick. And that it ends with Vulpicula back in Metropolis saying, like, before this is over, I'll raise Metropolis to the ground. And it says next issue, Dragon Slayer. So yeah, I just mainly wanted to get to the point of it that the Kendra having an identity crisis during it, I think, seems to be the biggest thing that comes out of this, is that she doesn't know, she's tired of people telling her who she is. She's going to figure it out. And through 3 issues, I feel like that's where it's going to go. We also get the Galaxy kind of confirms that nth metal isn't from our dimension, because nothing matches its unique, vibrational frequency and stuff. So, art by Nahuelpan is solid. All the action sequences are good, and the writing's really coming into its own from Axelrod. So I'll give it a solid 7.
Okay. The Vigil issue 4, Ram V writing with Sid Kotian and Dev Pramanik on the art. So the last issue raised this very big, bold idea that the team were all part of the Doctor's creation. Like, he thought them up somehow. And this issue's job was to explain that, basically. And it did a pretty good job of that. If anything, the real critique I have here is that we only have one issue left, and I feel like it just introduced a whole interesting idea that could be like a whole series, but alright.
Theoretically, this could have been an arc in a bigger story.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe there's hope for a sequel series or something, but we'll see. I mean, it starts off with the introduction to the kid, who's like who's got cold dead eyes and like sort of sees decisions ahead and can figure things out. That's his whole thing. But when we come to present day, the Doctor explains his backstory, and he's actually from further back in time. He's from like the 40s. Particularly, he was like with other scientists, and they were part of the Philadelphia experiment. And when the ship disappeared, the ship in Philadelphia, and then came back 6 minutes later, they were on that ship. They're the ones who turned on their fancy experiment, but they never came back. They were actually stranded somewhere else, somewhere like another dimension, effectively. And it turns out that they went to a place where they could will ideas into existence, and they would try to will ideas onto Earth. And it kind of worked. Like, so there's 3 of them. Like, so we got a Doctor, and then we've got 2 other characters. A woman who was dating the third character, the guy, who turns out to be something of a villain. He effectively turns out to be the villain of the whole book. He's the one who... And this, what's so good about this is that this kind of, all of a sudden, it makes sense in retrospect. Their entire thing is like finding like, technology and devices they don't think the world should have, because this turns into this egomaniac, this villain, has been willing his ideas onto Earth. But when he first tried to do it, he would try like, there's a sky fortress, and it's like the 60s, and it would basically exist for a second and then disappear, because it was too much for the world to believe. The idea was too much. And what they realized is that you have to nudge people forward. So you have to like make them believe in like the genesis of something, and then they'll believe the next thing, because that won't seem as outlandish, and so on and so forth. And then it quickly gets to the point where this guy willed into existence the nuclear bomb, the nuclear fission, fusion, nuclear reactors. This all came from this guy willing these ideas into existence from this other dimension. That was because part of it was stuff that they were already thinking about, right? Yeah.
And so he was able to just, like you said, give it that nudge just to put it a little bit over. And this guy's also the villain that was introduced in the last issue. That is, the subsidiary of Luthor Corps. That's him. So he's made it out of this realm just like our Doctor did. And he's, I'm sure profiting or whatever.
It's taken him much longer because he didn't care. He was more concerned about playing God. And the woman who was there with them was originally dating him, but over their years in this dimension, she actually ended up switching to the Doctor because they were both recognizing this egomaniac's path and what he was doing. So the Doctor basically realized that if they figure out a way to get back to Earth, that he would need backup to fight the creations that his old partner is making, these technologies that are going to lead the world to this place where he's the one in charge, where he's the one ruling it. So that's why he made the Vigil. That's why he thought up all these people, and it kind of makes sense that in this world that these people with superpowers aren't too far-fetched for the world to believe exists, because it's the DC universe. It's the world with Superman and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman and stuff.
And he even tells them how they're going to respond to this news, right?
That's not him. That's the kid.
Oh, that's the kid. That's right. That's right.
Because the kid steps in and says, you're all going to respond this way, but in the end, you're all going to realize that we have to fight this fight. We all have to band together and stop this guy. But the final little twist is that when the kid's alone with the Doctor, he turns and says, I'm not one of yours. I'm one of his. And it's like, holy shit, that's such a good little reveal. And it's one of those things where it's like, that only makes sense because of all the context that this issue spent the entire time setting up, which is that they were in this world where they could make ideas on Earth, and the other guy is trying to build the Earth in his creation, so he's making all these technologies. He's trying to inch everything forward to whatever he sees as the future of the world. And the Doctor with the Vigil are stopping all these bits of technology as best they can, and that's what they've been doing since the first time they showed up in Detective Comics. They were stopping a piece of technology that existed. So I can't believe that madman Ram V has given me an explanation here that justifies everything they've been doing since the first time they appeared. The mad bastard.
He has he's going to that realm. That's the only explanation. This is him explaining where he gets his powers from. So the whole idea of the kid, right, being of the main villain's idea, it fits in because that guy is very, very much believes in like this cold and calculating view of technology.
Which is very much what this kid is he's very cold and can see the outcomes and make predictions and stuff. Because
his introduction is there's these kids bullying this dog, and he just throws a rock and kills the dog, which is very sad for me as a dog person, right? But it was this whole idea of the greater good was they were going to torture that dog, so I had to put it out of its misery before it could get to that. And it's this very kind of dark, but it makes sense, and it kind of troubles the Doctor. You can tell that he talks about it. Yeah. And so knowing that he came from the other guy, you look back at that scene and it all clicks.
Yeah, but it also kind of works in this way where, so the Doctor then convinces him that, but you could have done something else, and he's like, after the kids then beat me up, I realized I should have thrown the rocks at them, but then you realize that that's also futile because they'd eventually just hit you harder, it would spread, it would keep going, and you almost get the feeling like if the Doctor can convince the bad guy's creation that to him, if he can convince this kid, no, this is the greater good and we have to work against this, it's maybe a sign that in some level, maybe someday you can convince the bad guy. If you can convince the bad guy's creation, who logically this kid has worked out that they should work for the greater good, then maybe the bad guy one day can be brought back down to reality. Maybe one day they can convince him, oh, like the path you're leading us all on is just effectively killing the dog. It's not actually going to solve all the problems you think it is. So that learning experience for this kid and the doc being there to kind of like push him in a certain direction. But they're all pissed about it. Even the guy who like funds their operation, he's one of his creations. He basically made a creation who could fund all of their their antics, which is kind of funny to me. But no, this is turned into a very interesting mythology. This team and this character, and it's fun because when he's talking about like all the different characters and who they are, like where is it here? He's like, so I thought of Dynamo, the man who felt no pain and could regenerate his body endlessly. I thought of Arclight, whose skin could conduct vast amounts of electrical energy. Like it feels like there's something bigger being crafted here with this miniseries that I really hope we get some sort of follow up to, because I can't imagine it's all going to be neatly wrapped up in one more issue.
No, it does feel like one of those things that he could put these characters out into the world and other creatives could play with him. But if these characters also showed up in his next whatever that he's doing, in addition to Detective, I wouldn't be surprised either, because they fit very in with his whole concept of ideas and beliefs from Swamp Thing.
I mean, he just signed an exclusive DC contract, so it's entirely possible that part of that contract was that he gets to use these characters either in a sequel, or maybe this is all prelude to them being a big part of, like you say, a new book that's it's headlined by another big character, but they become the supporting cast in it, or maybe even the villains in it, depending on how what the story is. So I think that's really interesting, actually.
Me too.
But you're right, this idea of ideas, it's been in Swamp Thing, it's been in his Detective, and it's obviously here, so really fascinating. So yeah, art's good. Not exceptional by any means. Obviously, the artist has changed a couple times on this book, or at least changed back. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and check the names of the previous. But this was definitely a different art team than the previous issue.
Yeah, it's not Sumit Kumar, who has been doing it. So
I don't think it was him on the last issue either. I think I think they've been gone a couple of issues now. But really, really fun stuff that was making my brain kind of go. I was really like, I read this almost last, and it was like hitting me with all these big ideas, and I'm like, oh Jesus, this is super interesting. But that is the Vigil. What were you rating the Vigil, Matt, out of 10?
8.5.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. The ideas are just super interesting. So 8.5 for me as well. So that'll take us on to the final book, which is a book from last week, which came out on the Saturday digitally, so we left it for this week, and that is Batman Gargoyle of Gotham, issue 1 by Rafael Grampa. And so this is an early days Batman story. It's set about a year after he became Batman. And it's very much Batman who's still in his grim and gritty phase, who, one of the big plot points of this issue is that he's actively planning on killing off Bruce Wayne, as far as the public are concerned.
Yeah, Batman's going to kill Bruce Wayne, so that's all he can exist. And I was like, sir, let me tell you why that's a bad idea. Zur-En-Arrh, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, this is not doing Zur-En-Arrh stuff. This is tapping into that classic Alfred wants to keep Bruce Wayne alive because he sees the value in Bruce Wayne, and that Bruce, him actually respecting his parents' past and who he is important to Alfred.
He needs the tether to humanity, and that is Bruce Wayne.
So I quite enjoyed this. I think I don't like the look of the Batcowl in this. I will say that.
Thank God.
Yeah. Me
too. It's very it's too broad and angular at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's very weird. It gives Superman. Jeez. I'm looking at covers as we talk. It's giving Batman like alien eyes, like the big almond, and I just. But the rest of the art, like all the human faces, look great.
Really good. Yeah. The villain especially. And we don't necessarily know who the main villain is yet, but we have like a prominent villain in this issue. So Batman, the issue starts with Batman's tracked down a serial killer, or at least something connected to serial killings, to this criminal building, which is actually an illegal TNT like factory. And this villain, this guy who's obsessed with this old children's cartoon. It looks like an old Warner Brothers cartoon or something like that. But he looks very creepy. When we first see him, he's sitting in front of like a projector watching these old cartoons. But he's not necessarily the serial killer, or at the very least, anything he does here doesn't match the murder scenes that we find out about later. So we have that kind of Seven style murder scene like thing going on throughout, where Gordon goes to a crime scene and there's this body that's lying naked and it's got all these puncture holes in it.
Right.
All that stuff.
Lining up with like acupuncture stuff too. So like the person's getting stabbed in the back of the head, but they don't die instantly. They end up suffocating, but they can't move. It's all very dark and grim. Like it matches kind of Batman's, like his whole grim and gritty at the same time.
Yeah. But yeah, like when Batman goes to find this villain watching the cartoons, like he basically sees a bunch of the criminals that were working for him, like they've been killed. They've got like hammers sticking out of their heads. It's, it says that the front page clearly says this is a 17+ book, and it is. It is quite violent.
Yes.
and bloody. I did love the panel of Batman doing the classic, like holding the cape up in front of the screen, in the front of the movie that's been projected. Oh, that looked great.
Looks good.
So. Yeah, so they have a bit of a fight, and this TNT plant blows up. So that's the whole thing. So we're introduced to Gordon, and he's looking at the crime scenes and stuff. And the book from this point on basically goes down a couple of paths where Gordon is looking into... What was fun? So Batman's looking into this guy who's obsessed with the cartoons. Whereas Gordon's looking into the patients of this doctor who worked at Arkham. He was like a child psychologist who worked at Arkham, because that ties into the case as well. So he's looking into
cartoons.
That. Yeah. So they're both looking down these different avenues, and this cartoon-based villain also like goes after this producer who bought all of the old... I mean, we don't realize who he is in the scene. It's not until the next scene when Alfred tries to buy all the stuff that belonged to this guy who made these cartoons. that we find out that this is this producer guy that the killer was torturing. I shouldn't say the killer because it may not be the actual killer,
right?
But the cartoon guy.
The cartoon guy, yeah, who's very everything in shadow, very very dark and inky. And yeah, so Bruce sends Alfred to go talk to the wife of the cartoonist, and then she reveals to Alfred, like, yeah, well, no, I sold everything to this other guy, and then you realize that was the producer, and he has all the rights to these cartoons.
Yeah, and there's a little tease here as well that the cartoon was banned and stopped being shown because of a violent thing that happened at school, and she doesn't go into it. She's like, "Oh, you're a fan, you must know." And Alfred can't like break his cover, so he just kind of goes, "Yeah, of
Deer
course."
in the headlights, yeah, sure, yeah, I remember that.
But it's like school desk with blood on it in this like quick little panel, and it's like, "Oh shit, what the hell happened?" So there's all this going on. So Gordon's like trying to talk to the old cellmate of the guy who was behind some of this. And then Batman's looking into the cartoon villain guy, and he ends up at this factory which is full of all these like old like plushies and like stuffed toys of these old cartoons. It's like the warehouse that the producer owns, and the cartoon villain like jumps out, and like we get, again, we're fighting, we get a car chase here. I won't go into it too much, but there's a whole thing here where Batman's been working on this version of the Batmobile, and it's got no windows, it's all cameras, and it does some. It's got
it's kind of like the blind box or something.
Yeah,
and
it's super fancy. He ends up saving a guy that the villain throws off a bridge. So again, there's a lot of good action stuff in the art, which is good. So yeah, but when basically, so the name we get, Dr. Charles Quinton, who is connected to like one of the crime scenes, I think, because that's where his name came from. Gordon's investigating him at Arkham and basically says, look, let me look at your records, because if another body turns up dead, we're going to blame you in the press for not helping us investigate it. So the big cliffhanger of the issue from the Gordon side of the plot is that Bruce Wayne was treated by this doctor. That's the big thing we end on, as Batman is fighting the cartoon villain guy separately. So like I've sort of rushed through that because we have to wrap up quite quickly, so I'm sort of rushing through this one a little bit, but I've not explained it very well, but I do want to compliment it for being quite intricate in how it's like it sets up two threads that Batman and Gordon both go and follow independently. Alfred's even getting involved in following one of them, and the way they're all kind of bouncing off of each other, there is a genuine mystery of it. Is like, okay, like maybe this cartoon villain is the person who did something violent at school once upon a time. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's the killer. But the crime scenes say it's not him. So who is the killer? There's
and the killer, the stuff that's happening with the serial killers that's killing rich people. So there's this rich versus poor divide. There's another character that gets introduced of she's not quite a reporter, but she's like a social media journalist, social media like person, and she puts out this big anti-rich diatribe, and now the rich are bleeding everybody dry, so it's about time someone's bleeding the rich dry, and it's like, you can't print that. She's like, I already did. It's already out there in the wild and stuff. And then it's a very intricate story with the art, which I mostly like, except for Batman and the cape and cowl. So,
that's the only thing I like about art as well. I think it's a good murder mystery detective story, but also it's doing stuff with Batman as a character, of him, like, because obviously his arc by the end of this is going to be that he has to keep Bruce Wayne alive, right? Because he keeps saying to Alfred, stop calling me Bruce, start getting used to calling me Batman. Bruce Wayne's dead after I'm done with this case, like just all this stuff, like that's clearly an arc that they're building up for him. And now you've introduced this thing where now Gordon's got a reason to go look at Bruce Wayne as one of the potential people involved. It wouldn't surprise me as well if all the victims are on this list. Maybe they're all people who were treated by this psychologist at Arkham.
The doctor.
Yeah, I mean, that all makes some sense. So, yeah, very good. So we kind of rushed through that a little bit, so apologies if the details were a little bit murky. But it's a really entertaining book. What are you giving Gargoyle of Gotham, Matt?
I'm going to give it a 8.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think it's an 8. I think I'd probably go another half point if I liked how Batman's cowl and face looked and the costume. But otherwise, it's got a very good aesthetic overall. I would say. So, very good. So, that'll take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. So, Matt, what is your panel / moment of the week?
For the sake of brevity, it's going to be Wonder Woman's appearance in Wonder Woman. The first time we see her in that cemetery in the snow, it looks great.
I mean, it's hard to argue with that one, to be honest. Mainly because it's built up throughout the entire issue, so it feels like a big deal when it happens. So I'm going to agree with that. I know you don't like when we have the same one, but
yeah, today it's okay.
But I'm taking it because it is the moment of the week. It absolutely is. All right, best cover of the week. There's a few options. There's a Dan Mora Nightwing cover, which is quite nice with Nightwing in the rain. There's a Titans variant by Mike Diodato Jr., which looks quite cool. Vigil's got a pretty solid cover, but I think my pick honestly is just the regular Wonder Woman cover by Sempere. I just think it's really nice. Again, it's got the white background, so all of the colors pop. You got the red stars behind her as well. It just looks really good.
Yeah, mine's gonna be Nightwing. It's the Nightwing falling into like the octopus squid creature and the tentacles. He's in his normal colors. Everything else is white, gray, beige. So just it really pops. It's like he's falling into madness.
Yeah. So best art of the week. This is actually quite a competitive week, shall we say?
It is.
On you go.
I'm gonna go with Montos for Green Lantern War Journal.
Oh, good pick. Yep. Good pick.
Took me by surprise. But shouts to Sempere on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, Sampere's an obvious contender. Montos, I agree, is a contender. It's between those two really, and which is surprising because you've got a Nicola Scott book, and a Stephen Byrne book and a Travis Moore book. Like, there's a lot of good art this week, and Grampa's art. I think if it wasn't for Batman's head, like Grampa's art might actually be the winner for me. But because of Batman's head, I think I am going to give it to Sempere. But it is close between that and Montos. Again, I was also pleasantly surprised by Montos. All right. So top 5 books. On you go.
All right. So number 1's gonna be Wonder Woman. Number 2 is gonna be Green Lantern War Journal. 3 is going to be Titans. 4 is going to be Nightwing, and 5 is going to be, if I can remember all my things, I'll give 5 to Superman.
Okay. Number 1 for me is also Wonder Woman. Number 2 is also Green Lantern War Journal. Number 3, then, it's a bit tougher after that point. I might go with the Vigil, and then number 4, I'll go with Gargoyle of Gotham, and then number 5, I'll go Titans. I'll go Titans over Nightwing, I think. Yeah, there you go. So that is our top 5s of the week. I will tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. We have Detective Comics 1074. We have Action Comics 1057. We have Green Arrow issue 4. Oh, I can't wait for that train wreck. We have the
it's
Flash.
Only issue 4.
Yeah, we have the Flash issue 1. So get a new run on the Flash to check out, which is cool. We have Harley Quinn 32. Batman Brave and the Bold issue 5, and I do believe this has the next part of the Tom King Garage story, so we'll definitely be looking at that story. We have Doom Patrol issue 6. Batman Catwoman the Gotham War Red Hood issue 1, Tales of the Titans issue 3, we have the Penguin issue 2, we have Power Girl issue 1, Spirit World issue 5, Batman Beyond Neo Gothic issue 3, and Wildcats issue 11. So a pretty healthy week again. Again, a couple of number 1s. Not that I think I'll bother with Power Girl. I'm sure you might give it a look though.
Definitely read that.
But I'm looking forward to Flash, and obviously Action and Tech are usually a good time. So, and Penguin obviously had a really good first issue as well. Tom King's kind of firing on all cylinders right now. So we'll see how all that shapes up. But that is what's coming next time. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been episode 374 of Comics from the Multiverse. Apologies for the slightly rushed ending, but we had an end time. Matt's got was it the end?
And I blew past it. We're in overtime.
Yeah,
this is like Brett versus HBK. So. Yeah.
Is this the in-laws you're going to see for dinner or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, for lunch.
For lunch, okay.
So,
all So blame Matt's in-laws for a slightly rushed ending.
Please.
But that is the show. You can support everything over at patreon.com/MailofUsTV, and you can, of course, just support us simply by liking, subscribing, sharing the show, rating us on iTunes with a good rating, that is, not a bad rating. But all those things do help out a lot. And we will see you next time. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.